DJ Lagway is back and will start for the Florida Gators against Long Island.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Tuesday. I'm Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI. And this is going to be the only time that we'll be looking at a full depth chart, right? Or at least the only time where we're going to project a full depth chart. So today we're going to be looking at the offensive side. Tomorrow we'll probably be looking at the defensive side. If I look different, if I sound different, it's because I am in my apartment that Verizon shut off the Wi-Fi too early on, and so I'm using a personal hotspot to do this. And so this is going to be a trip. But we're going to start by talking about the backfield here. Quarterback is DJ Lagway, right? No one is going to question that. As long as he is healthy enough to play football, he is going to be the starting quarterback for the Florida Gators. It's as simple as that. There's no competition, despite what some transfer portal quarterbacks may have thought that also lost the starting job that they were actually competing for. I mean, if you were going to be a backup, Florida's probably a better place to do it. Just want to throw that one out there. But DJ Lagway is the starting quarterback. Billy Napier mentioned yesterday in his press conference that DJ Lagway has been 100%. He's been a full participant. He's going to be playing against Long Island, which I don't think many people were surprised about. I mean, we've been saying the whole, well, if there were a game, he'd play. We'd been talking about that one. But I do think that we had Nick Delatorre here last week from Florida Victorious, and he mentioned the rumors. Not even that it was anything that he thought was going to happen or that he heard was going to happen. It was just people started talking about, well, maybe you don't play DJ Lagway against Long Island. And Billy Napier put a pin in that one by saying that, yes, DJ Lagway will start this Saturday against Long Island because Florida Gators football is back, and he's going to be out there. QB2, I think, is Aiden Warner right now. They brought in Harrison Bailey from Louisville by way of UNLV, by way of Tennessee. And I think that right now it's Aiden Warner above him. We've heard really nothing but incredibly high praise surrounding Aiden Warner since the spring. We've heard about his development. We've heard about, last season he was coming off the torn ACL, so he was limited in his development, and now he's not limited in that development. So he's out there fully participating. He's been spinning it, as some people would like to say. Spring game looked pretty good for him. He looked confident. I don't think he's mobile at all, or I don't think he's mobile, but I don't think he's as immobile as a lot of people painted him after that Texas game. I think that Texas game was just bad. It was just a rough showing, and he was deer in headlights, But I think from what I've heard and from what we've seen reported, Aiden Warner being QB2 is the most likely outcome. Harrison Bailey, I believe, would be QB3, and Tramel Jones would be QB4. I have no issues with that. I think that Tramel Jones might be the most physically talented of the three backups, but he's still a true freshman, and I think that what you're looking for from a backup is some stability, which you could argue, Harrison Bailey hasn't proven that. Aiden Warner hasn't proven that. But I think for Aiden Warner, he's probably the best mix of at least having decent physical ability, comfort with the system now that it's year 2 for him, the improvement that we've seen. I think that it's fair for him to be QB2, Harrison Bailey QB3, and Tramel Jones QB4. Again, I think that Tramel Jones, though, is the most physically talented of the three backups. It's just a matter of getting experience out there, right? Which, hopefully, against Long Island, he'll get at least a little bit. At running back, it's Jadan Baugh at the top, Jacoby Jackson behind him. I don't care if you want to say 1A, 1B, 1, 2. I don't care how you describe it or how you want to list them. they're both going to get a ton of reps. They're both going to get a ton of carries. So I don't necessarily care to argue who's listed as 1 or 2. They're probably going to be listed as an or. And that's all that matters, right? That both Jadan Baugh and Jacoby Jackson are going to get the ball a lot. I don't care if it's 50-50, 60-40. Get them both the ball a lot. And you're probably going to win some more football games in 2025 because of it. So I don't necessarily care. I think that a lot of it will also depend on, we'll say situationally, maybe they feel that Jadan Baugh is the better pass protector. And so he's going to be in on, when they're trailing, he's going to be the guy in there so he can be in pass pro working effectively. Not that I necessarily think Jacoby Jackson's bad at it. I don't necessarily think Jadan Baugh is great at it. I think Jadan Baugh was good for a freshman, but I think that, time will tell between who's really developing in that area. And we'll be able to tell. If Florida's driving late and it's pretty obvious that they need to throw the football a lot, they're going to put out the running back that gives them their best mix of pass catcher and pass protector. And so whoever that may be is whoever it's going to be. But again, that doesn't necessarily mean that running back 1 is better than running back 2 or running back 1A is better than running back 1B. Just get them both the football a lot, and that's the only thing that matters about this. Running back 3, I think it's going to be Katie Daniels. Had Treon Webb been entirely healthy, I think it would have been pretty tough for Billy Napier to bench him. This is a weird stance that I have about Billy Napier, just a weird thought I have about Billy Napier, where it's not often that he benches his guys. I think that when you look at, certain like tight ends, like Dante Sanders had a bad half in 2023 to open the game against Utah. Hayden Hansen got in over him and never gave it up. Right. And that was a great decision, but it is weird that he, started Sanders and then yanked him. And then it was like, oh, this guy's clearly better. If this guy's clearly better, he should have been out there. So I do think that it's been a little weird where he'll make that yank. He started him, which was weird, but then took him out right away. And then now we've seen guys that Napier brought in struggle and he hasn't taken them out. And I do think that part of that's just a show of confidence in them of hey, I evaluated you. I brought you here. I'm not going to just give up on you. But I don't know. It's also just, I feel like I've never been a huge Treon Webb believer. I've always thought that he was kind of just jack of all trades, master of none, which I don't think is always a positive thing there to be a master of none. I think Katie Daniels gives you a more explosive running back. And I think that Katie Daniels Treon Webb's been hurt a lot. Katie Daniels being healthy kind of helps to limit that. So I do think that that having Katie Daniels as running back 3 is most likely, especially because the best ability is availability, and Treon Webb has not been available through, the offseason, right? And so I think that that's just, it makes it weird, it makes it tough, it makes it complicated, and I hate that that's how football has to work, but it's how football has to work. It's football. There's just no other way to put it. So I do think that it's more likely that Katie Daniels is running back 3. Had Treon Webb been healthy, I think he probably would have been running back 3. But he hasn't been, and so I do think Katie Daniels has surpassed him, and then Treon Webb will likely be running back 4 whenever. I think they said week 3 is kind of when they think he'll be back, and so maybe then he'll be running back 4 at that point in time. We're going to move on to pass catchers when we get back with Locked On Gators. August 26th. Today is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. Visit the FanDuel app today. Start planning your future bets now because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel. Play your game. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free, whether it's in the podcast and on YouTube. And we're going to spend these next however long we're going to spend. It's not timed like that. Talking about the pass catchers here. I'm not necessarily specifying, who's the X or the Z or anything, because we could talk about how, J. Michael Sertivant, likely going to be the X, and Trey Wilson likely going to be the H, and Aiden Mizell likely going to be the Z. But we also hear it all the time of, well, J. Michael Sturdivant is also learning the slot. So he's going to be the X. He's going to learn the slot. He's going to line up here. He's going to line up there. We hear all these guys learning multiple positions. I don't necessarily care about the letter attached to the name, right? I don't necessarily care. I'm a big believer, like even with tight end, it's the Y and the H, and sometimes this guy's going to be doing that. Sometimes that guy's going to be doing this. I don't care what the letter is. Your position's your position. Sure, get the best players on the field as often as you can. Get the guys that you can rely on as often. Get the guys that you can rely on the field as often as you can. And so for receiver, I just put the top 3 because I think 11 personnel is kind of the base that a lot of Florida Gators fans want. I do think we see more of it this year. So I think that trio be J. Michael Sturdivant, Trey Wilson, Aiden Mizell. I think that J. Mike coming in deserves that starting spot at X based on what we saw from Cal and UCLA, where, again, I know that a lot of people kind of look at his stats and write him off, especially if you're part of the rival fan base. That's just nonsensical to do because so much of looking at statistics matter. Like context matters there, right? I always bring up guys like Cam Akers at FSU. Like awful offensive line. His stats were hurt because of it, but he still looked damn good. I don't care about your stats if I can look at the film and say, yeah, he's good. It was just crappy situations, right? J. Michael Sturdivant's good. It's just he had, let's see, an offensive coordinator. First off, a first-year head coach. Second, an offensive coordinator that hadn't called plays in college, that wasn't a good NFL play caller, that left after the year because it was not going to work out. And so they're like, all right, we're just going to split here. Awful offense in general. Awful quarterback situation. It was just tough. It's tough to look at stats and go, oh, yeah, that guy's not good. I think you have to watch J. Michael Sturdivant's film, and you're like, all right, well, that's a starter quality receiver there. Trey Wilson is one of the most dynamic football players that we're going to talk about for a while in a Gators uniform. Just a matter of staying healthy and letting him play receiver. Again, I've said it before. I have zero doubt that Trey Wilson is a good route runner, right? I have no doubt about that. Been talking about that a ton. That I think that when you watch Trey Wilson, just the way he moves, you could say, all right, that should translate to being a good route runner. And it should. Aiden Mizell being a speed threat, a vertical receiver, I need him to show me more this year. I'm just going to be honest. When he came over, or when he committed out of high school, I was a huge fan. You can go back to talking about it. I was like, oh, I think he's just a blazer. I think he's great. We haven't seen it yet. And we've seen some plays that he's made that you watch and you go, all right, that's really impressive. Like the spring game 2024, he had the insane catch that was low, and it's like, all right, well, people that tall and that lanky making catches down low, that's impressive. It's tough. When you got long legs, long arms, it's tough to get low and make the catch sometimes. And that's what he did. Kept in, like we see things, we're just like, oh man, that's a really good play. Like if you could do that more consistently, that'd be great. Behind them, I think you'll see Dallas Wilson. No surprise. I don't know if he's going to be playing much this game. I know that we'll say the cast is off there. That again, I think was overplayed and more precautionary than anything else. Vernell Brown III, I think, is going to be out there, and Tank Hawkins. I think that the backup receivers are fast as hell, but very unproven. And I think that's one of the biggest question marks. Like J. Bud Davis on Twitter brings it up all the time about like this receiver room. They're incredibly unproven. We could talk about everything, but like again, here we like to acknowledge things. This receiver room is incredibly unproven. It's a bunch of guys where you go, oh well, we think they should translate well. We don't know what Trey would look like in a legitimate full season. We don't know what J. Mike's going to look like in a Florida Gators uniform. We don't know if Aiden Mizell is going to take the next step. If Dallas Wilson is going to be able to translate from the spring game over what Vernell Brown III is going to look like, what Tank Hawkins is going to look. We don't know so much about this receiver room. But again, I feel pretty confident in a lot of the talent that's been brought in. It's just a matter of taking those next steps. In the tight end room, it's Hayden Hansen, it's Tony Livingston. I know there's a ton of Florida Gators fans that are going to go, oh, well, it should be Amir Jackson. No, it shouldn't. Just plain and simple. Hayden Hansen, the more reliable, honestly, the most reliable blocking tight end that the Florida Gators have had in a long time. Hasn't presented a ton in the passing game yet. I said before, I think that the best way to use him, let him work the seam, let him move the sticks underneath, and that's all you need to do, and use him in the red zone. That's it. If you get him involved in the passing game in those 3 areas when you need it, and you just let him be the dirty work blocker, I think that's a ton of value. I've said before, when I'm comparing him to like an NFL guy for comparative purposes, I always bring up like Mercedes Lewis. Like, not going to be a 1,000-yard receiver, not going to be an insane part of a modern passing game. More so earlier in Mercedes Lewis's career, you could make a push for that. But I think that you look at how Mercedes works in modern offenses, and that's how Hayden could work. Tony Livingston, I think he's a great, I guess we'll say, dual threat tight end there, where, he used to play offensive line in high school, so he's got at least some blocking acumen to him. He is a great athlete, basketball player. So I think that when you look at that translating, it's good. You look at what Tony Livingston did toward the end of last year, and he was actually getting open in the passing game. He was getting the ball every now and then. I think the tight ends now are going to have probably more of an impact, maybe in fewer plays if we do see more 11 personnel. Behind them, Scott Isaacs and Amir Jackson. Scott Isaacs has been rotating in slowly, been a special teamer prior to that, just about taking away more snaps there. Amir Jackson is someone that I think in 2024 had unrealistic expectations. We spoke about those a ton, about how people are like, oh, this is the next Kyle Pitts. 2 things. 1, I don't think anybody's going to be the next Kyle Pitts, really. I don't think it's happening. He's a unicorn for a reason. 2, I don't know how many high school tight ends we need to hype up before we acknowledge as a fan base that as long as Billy Napier is the head coach, and as long as the Florida Gators run a Billy Napier offense, doesn't have to be fully Billy Napier offense, but as long as it's still at least 50% a Billy Napier offense, true freshman tight ends are probably not going to play much. It's really tough to learn this playbook. We've had Hayden Hansen on the show 1,000 times to talk about it. He'll be back with us next week, by the way, once the first game of the season is played. And we've had these conversations a ton about tight end. It takes a lot to learn how to play tight end in this offensive system because you have so many responsibilities. And if you watch, you'll see from the time Hayden took over the starting job at halftime of Utah in 2023 to, I think you get to the South Carolina game in October of that year. And even then you see his role expand greatly just in terms of what he's asked to do because he's still figuring it out. He's still learning the offense in the system. Every tight end that comes into this offense, the more you see them, the more they start to do and they start to incorporate because they're still learning things. They start by learning what you need to learn to just function in the offense. And then they go, okay, how can we evolve your role to evolve the offense? And we've seen it year after year, month after month. When you're watching this team, you can see the tight end usage change. And so Amir Jackson, you need to be able to learn how to do the blocking things. I do think that once Amir is game experienced, and I mean significant game reps, as a blocker, I think you could start seeing them open things up in the passing game. But the fact still remains, you need to do so much mentally in this offense at tight end. It's really tough to project a freshman tight end, a true freshman tight end, playing at all in this offense. It's just incredibly rare. It's probably not going to happen as long as Billy Napier has significant say in the offense. We are going to move to the offensive line when we finish talking with Locked On Gators. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis, and maybe you've even tried them, but if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast. On average, in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege and use promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free every single podcast and on YouTube. And we will be available every day during the season. Immediately following games, we're going to be going live still this whole season, despite the move and everything going on, which we'll talk more about at a later date. But to wrap up today's episode of Locked On Gators, we are talking about the offensive line, which, as we know, 4/5 of the starting offensive line is returning. I've been saying that the entire time. I'm not going to switch up on that once we get to the actual games being played. I think that when you look at the starting offensive line, I think we're going to go position by position, actually. I was going to say starting offensive line, backup offensive line, but we'll probably go position by position and then talk about them as units. Starting left tackle is Austin Barber. I don't think anybody's shocked by that. I think a lot of Florida Gators fans, myself included, prefer him at right tackle. Again, I don't think he's awful at left tackle. I just think he's considerably better at right tackle. Maybe it's just moving to his right is better for him. I don't know what it is, and I also just don't come up to me with the whole like, oh, you get paid more on the left side. No, you don't. The highest paid offensive tackles in the NFL are right tackles. You don't get paid more on the left side. Not how it works anymore. In fact, you could argue they get paid more on the right side because as offenses have grown and developed, quarterbacks roll out more to the right side. Quarterbacks are more athletic and they're rolling out to the right side. You know what that means? They're rolling away from the left tackle, which means the left tackle's job is not the same job that it was a decade ago. Get it out of your mind that left tackles are more valuable and going to get paid more. Offenses want 2 high-level tackles. Doesn't matter the side. So the whole like, oh, well, left side's more valuable. Not really. Right tackles get paid more now. Behind Austin Barber, I think you get Fletcher Westphal. Giant human being, redshirt freshman. Was a huge fan of his high school film coming out of Tuscarora. You can go back prior to his enrollment as a true freshman after his commitment when we weren't very confident he was going to be a because, the rumors were it was going to be Clemson and then ended up being Florida. And very happy about that one. At left guard, we've got Najee Harris is back. He started last season at left guard, played the entire year at left guard. And I think that a lot of people loved seeing him play. I love seeing him play. I don't think he played awesome. I will say that. I will also say, though, that I think for a true freshman, or for a redshirt freshman, played really well. I really do. I think that the way that you saw him play was he redshirt freshman? Might have been, yeah, he was a true sophomore. He burned his redshirt. But I think that watching him play in 2024, you kind of saw him as the year went on get better and get more confident and improve because guard play is just nasty, ugly, physical. Like it's messy in there. And, we've had the conversations where at tackle, you kind of got to be more nimble, light on your feet. You got to be more agile. Guard, you got to be ready to go like that. Like they snap the ball and you're getting hit. It's a simple, like they snap the ball, defensive lineman's firing at you. On the edge, a tackle, you kind of get to be more patient and wait for them to come to you and then just got to get in front of them. A lot of finesse over there. On the interior, they're trying to pummel you and they're trying to fight and brawl. And so I think Najee Harris, as he kind of got more accustomed to doing that on a play-by-play, snap-by-snap basis, we saw him get better as the year went on. So I think the beginning of the year wasn't great for him. And the back half was honestly pretty impressive considering watching his development happen in real time. I think his backup's going to be Cam Waits. We've seen Cam Waits, in this rotation, as long as he was healthy, we've seen him in this rotation for Florida, for Billy Napier, for Rob Sale. He was one of the In fact, he's the last player remaining on the roster to come over from Louisiana with Billy Napier and Rob Sale. So interesting note there that I didn't really think about prior to. But we saw him play right tackle, left guard, right guard in 2024. I think we see him just at left guard now. Although, again, we'll probably see guys rotate around a little bit at some spots. At center, you've got the best center in America in Jake Slaughter, All-American last year. You've got Jason Zandamela behind him, who was highly ranked high school recruit, committed to USC, went to USC, and after the spring semester, transferred to Florida prior to last year. And I do think that this year we see him grow. We've heard the reports of, he's had a really impressive fall camp. He's taken the next step. Hopefully he has, because I do think that Florida's in a spot where you've got Jake Slaughter, but if something bad were to happen, I'll knock on wood for that one, then you might be in a rough spot. But if Jason Zandamela is ready to go, would love that. I do hope that he gets significant playing time against Long Island. I hope that he gets playing time against USF. And I hope that he becomes a legitimate rotational part. I don't know how much he's going to, because Jake Slaughter didn't rotate out much last year. I don't know if that was because he wasn't supposed to, like they didn't want to take him out, or they couldn't really take him out. But I want to see Jason Zandamela get reps now, because Jake Slaughter is going to be gone for this year. Same thing with Fletcher Westphal, left tackle. Guys ahead of them, going to be gone. I want them to get that development. At right guard, Damian George is probably going to be the starter there. I'd prefer Rod Kearney. That's never been a secret. And Nick De La Torre mentioned this last week when he was on Locked On Gators. We didn't really get into it because I didn't want to spend a ton of time. We were already running over. But I think with Damian George, he's I think more hated than deserved. And I mean hated as in from a fan perspective. I think he was really awful at right tackle. I think he was average at right guard. Okay? I think if you're just talking about the film, really bad at right tackle, average at right guard. Like Nick mentioned last week, it was Damian George's idea to move into guard from tackle after the 2023 season because it was so bad at right tackle. Came in, film was average. I don't think he was great. I don't think he was awful. I think the film was average. What drives me nuts, same thing with Cam Waits, the same thing that's been driving me nuts since week 1 of last year, giving up with the pick, just not even attempting to make a play. That stuff drives me nuts. I hate that. I don't want that on my team. It's disgusting to me. That kind of laziness, I hate it. And so I hate that. But if we're talking just film, I think Damian George is average. I'm a huge Rod Kearney fan. Have been since high school. Want him to get on the field, and I do think that he'll translate well. Right tackle, Bryce Lovett's the guy that everyone's anticipating. He is one of the most versatile offensive linemen on the entire roster. I think long-term NFL talking, probably going to be a guard, but I think he can get away with being a tackle in college. And if that can work out enough where you can prove, hey, I can stay at guard, or I can stay at tackle, teams are starting in the NFL to welcome that. The Rashawn Slaters, like they're welcoming the right tackle where you don't have the stereotypical size, but if you can prove that you can last on the edge, we can keep you there. And I think that Bryce Lovett getting to do that against SEC edge rushers, who many of whom will become NFL players, I think it matters if you can hold up in the SEC at offensive tackle. Caden Jones, I think, is going to be his backup. No doubt in my mind, Caden Jones has the athleticism, but the technique needs to show up at some point behind Bryce Lovett. I think that both will play pretty consistently because Bryce Lovett's a starter, but 1, Billy Napier, Rob Sale have always rotated offensive linemen, and 2, I think the job that's most up for grabs is probably right tackle, where it's the new starter entering this team. So I think that'll be your offensive line: Austin Barber, Najee Harris, Jake Slaughter, Damian George, Bryce Lovett, starters. Fletcher Westphal, Cam Waits, Jason Zandamela, Rod Kearney, Caden Jones as your backups. And honestly, I feel pretty comfortable with that line. I'm not going to lie there. I feel pretty comfortable. Looking forward to seeing them maul some people throughout the season. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free every single podcast and on YouTube. We will be back tomorrow. Talk more Florida Gators football. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI, and I'll see you all next time.